Good morning, fisher, women, and men. Didn't know he's going fishing today, did ya? How many of you here like to fish? I know Lois is a fisher. Oh, we got several fisher people. Okay, so for those of you who didn't raise your hand, I promise that there will be no putting worms on hooks. So, you know, the thing about fishing that I least appreciate is that you have to wait for the fish to bite the hook. I know it's hard for you to believe that of me, that I don't like to wait for things. I'm going to tell you that truly the last 2 weeks, I have learned all about waiting. I've learned what it's like to plan a celebration and to be so excited about it, and then to have somebody remind you that when there's no chairs and there's no sound system, it's really hard to have a service. So thank you all for being here today. I am assured that by November 10th, we will have chairs in place, sound systems in place, and everything will be complete. And that we can indeed have our opening service. So I've had to learn to put my hook in and wait. And for me, it seems like it's been, I don't know about you, but it seems like it's been a long, long wait. So I'm ready for that fish to bite any day, but it looks like it's going to be November 10th when we move upstairs to our new sanctuary. So, you know, the thing about fishing is today we're going to fish for the truth. We're going to fish, we're going to cast our nets and look at ways that we can live our mission. So last week we talked about our vision, right? Centered in love. We celebrate our connection to the divine within ourselves and within others. Anybody remember what it was like to be connected in love? So what did we say? When we're centered in love, what are some things that we experience?
Joy.
Joy.
Peace. Happiness.
Happiness. Peace. So for those of you that weren't here, you missed an opportunity to look into the eyes of your neighbor. And when we took time to look into each other's eyes and to connect, what were some of the things that you experienced?
Love.
Love. Support. What else? Acceptance. Joy. Friendship. Blessing. There is beauty in connection. And learning to connect with one another. And we decided that if every person on this planet could be centered in love, if we could walk through this world as love, wow, wouldn't that be something? There probably wouldn't be any more war, or famine, or hunger, or any of the things if we could be centered in love. And we decided that if we were centered in love, wouldn't that be cause for celebration? Yes! I like to celebrate. It's my favorite. So the thing about a vision is it's great to hold a vision. But visions are more than just pretty words on a page. In order to have a vision, for that vision to become reality, takes work. Takes action, takes intention, takes consciousness. And that's where our mission comes in. I believe that Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center is committed to fishing. One of my favorite quotes is that you can give a person a fish and they'll eat for a day. You can teach a person to fish, and they will be fed forever. We at Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center, I hope, are committed to teaching people to fish. And I believe that that's what our mission reflects. When we say that we are a vibrant, inclusive, spiritual community that inspires others to express their divine nature. So we're going to unpack that today and start to begin to ask some questions that we're going to continue to ask in the month of October about how we can live our mission. So some of you have already come up and admired this painting. If you've ever been in my office, you've actually seen this painting because it hangs on my wall. This picture is very near and dear to me because the artist was a good friend. But before she was a friend, she was a mentor. She mentored me. She's the reason I became an art therapist. And we spent a lot of time together. And at one point, I was her caregiver. And we were having a discussion one evening before she started painting this picture about whether or not we were doing that which we had come here to do. Whether or not we were living the mission that had been given to us. And I was working in a 30-day treatment center at that point, and we'd had someone that had overdosed and passed, and I was just a mess. And I sat in there with her and I said, why do we bother? Like, I'm working harder than they are. Am I really making a difference in anybody's life? And so we started to talk about why we had become therapists to begin with, which later became a whole discussion about why I became a minister. It was because we wanted to inspire people to live up to their highest and greatest potential. That's why we did it. And so she began to paint this painting. This painting is called The Empty Boats. And it's based on a story in the Bible that comes from Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 through 20. As Jesus walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, when he metaphysically interprets this story, he describes the fishers of men, or people in the translation that I used in this story, as spiritually quickened people who are strongly fortified in truth and able to help others find the light. Breathe into that. So I have to tell you, one of my favorite metaphysical words when I started the study of unity was spiritually quickened. Like, there's something about that, right? There's some energy to being spiritually quickened. It's like when you get excited about something and you want to share it with people, and you want people to know what you know. You want them to know this great thing that's just happened to you. Spiritually quickened. So spiritually quickened actually means waking up. It means that you wake up to this idea that you are divine. That you wake up in consciousness and begin to understand that you're not only connected to Source, you're not only connected to presence, you're connected to all. That's when you become spiritually quickened. When you realize that you are an expression of the divine Source, God. And when you can do that, when you are awakened with that, then you develop a faith. Peter represents our capacity for faith. So faith is knowing what you know regardless of the facts. Right? Knowing what you know. Knowing that you know what you know what you know. Period. And when we have that kind of faith, when we have that kind of knowingness, then it gives us the strength to do that which is ours to do. So as Brother Andrew represents our power of strength. When I think of strength, the first thing that comes to mind is courage. Because sometimes it takes courage to stand in the midst of a storm and know that it'll pass. And sometimes it takes courage to reach out to somebody we don't know and to connect with them.
Are you here with your parents?
So strength and faith help us to move forward on our mission. Our mission to inspire others. To inspire others. Can you think of someone who has inspired you? Is there someone in your life who propped you up when you were ready to give up? Was there someone that you look up to, that you admire? So inspire, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, inspire is to draw forth, to bring out. So when we inspire others, we are bringing out the divine in them. We are drawing forth the best of them. Are there people or four-legged creatures, or no-legged creatures maybe, that bring out the best in you? That they see the best in you? Even when you can't see it, they see the best in you? Absolutely. What would it take for you to be that person for someone else? For you to bring out the best in another, what would it take? So inspiring is also one of our core values. And so we're going to dig deep into that here in a week or so. And really look at the ways that we inspire others. I want to tell you, I was really inspired this past week. Susan came up to me and asked me how my week was. I've been in Moline, Illinois at the Unity Worldwide Ministries Great Lakes Regional Conference. What a mouthful. We call it GLRC for short. Much easier to remember and say. I went there, and it's amazing to me. I run, you can ask Jane, my wife, I run full steam ahead 99.9% of the time. And I don't really realize that I'm almost out of steam until I stop. And until I have a moment to be quiet and be still. Whew. So I didn't really realize that I had run out of steam until I was there. And it was one of the most powerful conferences I have attended at GLRC. And what made it so powerful is that we gathered in groups almost every day of 4 or 8 people. And the very first group that we gathered in, we were asked to look on our hearts and to see what was weighing on our hearts. And to ask for prayer. So I sat with a group of 3 other people, and I told them what was heavy on my heart. And each person in that circle stopped, held my hands, and prayed with me. We did that for everyone in the circle. Later on, we had an opportunity in a group of 8 to talk about our dream, our vision. What is that thing in us that lights us up, that gets us excited, that thing that we want to do. And we sat in a circle, and each person took a turn speaking their dream. And then the other 7 people looked at you and gave you an affirmation, gave you support, offered you their encouragement. I can tell you after 3 days of that, my meter was back on full again. And I felt deeply connected to those people in my group. I felt deeply connected to them. And I felt listened to. And I felt held. You could say that I felt included. We are an inclusive, a vibrant, inclusive community. So if you look at Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which you all know is my favorite source reference, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines inclusive as simply including everyone. Including everyone. And the synonyms for inclusive, which I loved, were all embracing, complete, comprehensive, global, universal. So when we talk about inclusive, that we are an inclusive community, it's much bigger than sexual orientation. It's much bigger than race. It's much bigger than culture. Inclusive means that we are part of one global, universal humanity. Many of you have seen my shirt that says, "Love is my religion. Humanity is my race. Peace is my weapon." Humanity. So saying that we are an inclusive community means that this community goes beyond these walls. That the community of Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center includes our brothers and sisters in Australia, our brothers and sisters in Canada, our brothers and sisters across the street. It's beyond Lutheran, beyond Catholic, beyond Baptist. That we are truly connected. That we are truly linked together. And so how do you show up and include others? How do you include others? It was funny. Someone came to me when they were first coming to this church, and they said, "We say we're inclusive, but I don't feel included." I said, "Well, what does that mean?" "Well, you know what? No one ever asks me to lunch. No one ever asks me to go and do things." And I said, "So when did you ask somebody?" "When did you ask somebody?" "You asked me to lunch, didn't you? We went to Bandito's for your birthday." "Yes, ma'am." How do you include people? Believe it or not, it's as simple as just, I found out, I didn't know the people that were in my circles, and I know a lot of people, but it was very interesting. Both of my groups, I didn't know anyone in there. I didn't know anyone in either of the groups. They were all like new ministers or people that had just come into the region. But just being heard, just praying with them, I felt an immediate connection to them. So sometimes it's as simple as saying, "I got this route on homebound meals. Do you think you could drive for me? Would you want to go along and help?" Or as simple as, "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" How are you including others so that they can express their divinity? You see, I believe that we first have to shine our light. that we have to be a light. Because when we are a light, and my light joins with your light, and joins with your light, and joins with your light, we become a beacon. And I believe people are drawn to that beacon. Because you see, I believe first, people have to see the light in us before they can see the light in themselves. I know when I got to Unity, I kind of sort of thought I might have a light. I at least thought there might be something out there bigger than me. But if you had told me I was divine, I'd have laughed and said, yeah, you need to talk to my sponsor. Not much here that's divine. Right?
Yes.
But as I experienced the light of other people, as I experienced the love of other people, I was more and more able to love myself. And as I heard other people's stories, I found out mine wasn't really all that bad. What I found was, if they were the light, then I must be the light too. And I began to accept that I had this light. So it's important for us to be a vibrant community. Vibrant. What does that mean? It means pulsating with life, with vigor, with activity. Pulsating. Now, it's really interesting. When you're a new minister and you step into a new role, people feel compelled to tell you what happened before you got there. It's like they can't help themselves. They feel really compelled. So what becomes more interesting is when 3.5 years later, people are compelled to tell you the same story they told you 3.5 years ago about what happened. Right? So we have generated a story that this community, this church, was dying. It was dying. And then it was brought back from the jaws of death by Barry Bernard. Which I love Barry. And I know that he did good work with you. But I also have heard that story about splits, about how many times we've split, and how people split over things like pews and chairs, paint colors. People split over that stuff. People leave the church when you change the closing song. That's the story that we tell. There's a story that I hear sometimes that 10% of the people are doing 90% of the work, 90% of the tithing, 90% of the volunteering, 90% of whatever, 90% of the participation. Is that story the story of a vibrant community? Is that the story you want to tell 20 years from now? No. Is that a story that, are those stories that inspire others to be divine? No. Is that inspirational? No. So, as we move into this next chapter of our life, I want to ask you to make a commitment to look inside your heart and to write a new story. Yes, ma'am. To write a new story. Because you know what? Even when I show up on Johnny Appleseed weekend and there's only 20 of you in the sanctuary, did you see me that day go, oh, nobody comes to church. I'm such a failure. We're going to have to close the doors. If Johnny doesn't make enough money, I'm going to be without a job. Oh, no. Because you know what? When I look into your faces, I see the face of God. When I look into your faces, I see people who are alive. I see people who are vibrant, no matter what. I know what some of you have gone through. I know the losses you've endured, the physical challenges you've had. I know that you are people who get up and brush themselves off and keep keeping on no matter what. That's a vibrant community. I mean, see, there were 9 of us that gathered upstairs last night for the new moon ceremony and to bless the sanctuary. So we had our friend that's a shaman, Kaya Harwood, who's spoken here many times, come in and lead us in a Native American First Peoples ceremony. There were only 9 of us. I'm telling you what, the rafters and the floor were shaking. And there was only 9 of us. You know? Numbers are not important. They're not. Numbers are numbers. Our only mission is to show up alive. To show up excited about being here. Yes. That's it. When we are a vibrant community, when we are alive with activity, when we are alive with vigor, when we are full of life, when we walk in these doors, and let me tell you what, reining you guys in sometimes on a Sunday morning is hard. Like there ain't nothing old and dying here. Offer you a cup of coffee. Woo! Right? You guys like to see each other. It's one of the things that I have loved from the very first moment about Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center. I walked in these doors and I saw how joyful and excited you were to see each other. Like, wow, what a gift. What an absolute gift. And when we have that kind of vibrancy, then it's easy for people to be drawn to us. People want what we've got. They want to feel included. They want to feel connected. I believe that's the one thing that is missing most today, is that sense of connection and belonging, one of our most basic needs. And we have an opportunity to create that by being a vibrant, inclusive, spiritual community that inspires others to express their divinity, their divine nature. Kathy finished this painting, and it sat in her apartment for a long time. And eventually she surrendered to the cancer that had spread throughout her body. And eventually she surrendered her life on this plane of existence and went on to her next form of expression. And when we were cleaning her apartment, she'd left a note on the back of the painting. She told her daughters. She'd asked her daughters to make sure that I received this painting so that I would always remember my mission. And so that I would always remember that even if I touched only one life, that it was worth it. That it was worth it. I am a spiritually quickened person who is strongly fortified in truth. And I am committed to helping others be the light that I see in them. My hope is that you will join me, that you will accept your mission